The Wire rivals the Gem Hadar and Mandalora. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. I had to throw Melora in there, by the way. Today, we are doing a seasonal review of Deep Space Nine Season 2. This is a look back at the entirety of Season 2 and all of the mostly awesome episodes in it. It's going to be a fun time. How you doing today, Cirroc?
Doing very well.
Nice.
Doing very well. It's nice and cool, and I'm ready to get into it.
Do you remember Melora?
Not that much. Not that much. Coming to my head, I think it was the Bashir girl that he had a crush on, and they had that like SpaceX.
Yeah. You sound like Elon Musk right there. SpaceX.
Yeah, that was SpaceX.
With an extra S in there. That was the one where the final showdown had her floating through anti-gravity and doing like the double axe handle knuckle sternum gizzard thing. That was that was definitely an episode in the second season.
One of the best episodes all time from what No, not at all. I can't remember that.
Of Deep Space Nine, it's definitely top 170.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah, it definitely burns an image in your head. You can't forget that.
Yeah. So before we get fully started into this, Season 2, Episode 1 was the first episode that we reviewed without our brother and friend, Mr. Aron Eisenberg. He tragically passed away on September 22nd, 2019, which was one day before we were going to do a review of Season 2, Episode 1. Just one day before we were going to do that. So this episode called Homecoming just makes me think of that. Like, I don't know if I can go back and watch that episode because I'm sure we very much struggled and fumbled and bumbled through it like two lost puppies without our fearless leader.
Yeah. And maybe that's why it's difficult for me to remember some of these episodes, because I've attached them to the memory of Aron, and some of it is hard to recall and be clear about. But yeah, this was difficult for us to even just start on this second season, and the timing of it, the fact that it was just before the beginning of the season, like it wasn't like midway through. So I remember having the phone conversation with him about, preparing for the next day's work, and all of that kind of stuff is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we took a few weeks off, and then when we started back up again, still looking back, like what you're saying, it's very much a haze. It's almost like we were kind of, I don't want to say sleepwalking through the first few episodes, but it was definitely like we were in a haze, like still, must have been mid-October, and we're just kind of figuring it out and saying, well, see how this works. But we did do it. And Aron is still with us in every episode that we do. We think about him every time. But certainly these first, I believe this was a 3-episode arc. Episode 1 was the Homecoming. Episode 2 was the Circle. Episode 3 was the Siege. And it was about... let's just say it. The Homecoming was about the Circle, a sect of Bajoran provisional government that is intent on wiping out alien influence. And that group is sneaking into power. And there was like a 3-episode arc with those three. And the second one was Kira spends time with Vedek Bareil, and they start to learn about the Circle. And the third one, the Siege, as a Circle-led Bajoran military attempts to occupy the station God, I barely remember that. I
And
remember.
I barely remember that. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I'm like, I remember that it had that 3-episode arc, and I remember it was about the extremist Bajorans, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember these details. You know?
Yeah, it's what I do remember is in Homecoming. I remember the runabout that Kira and O'Brien took down to that Cardassian labor camp, and they found those Bajoran uh, laborers there. I remember that planetary scene and that.
Oh, yes. You're right. I remember that too. And then they kind of they kind of had to like retreat back to
Right.
in like a firefight, like retreating back to wow, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, but the holes taking over the station in the siege, like I don't remember the siege as much though. I do remember in Homecoming the kind of hero's welcome that the Bjorn fighter that they found was fleeing from when they brought him back to the station. He didn't really want to be that.
Yeah.
So I remember a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm.
The siege part and this extremist group, that's the part that I don't remember as much.
That's practically the only thing I remember. I just remember that was kind of the conflict of the 3 episodes, but it was a really good concept because you guys had 19 episodes for the first season. Second season started with a bang, a 3-episode arc, which was only done afterwards once more similarly, which was the first 6 episodes of season 6. There was that 6-episode arc there. So this was kind of like a prelude to that. And so I think this 3-episode arc must have been like really, something new back in 1993, because before they would just have a 2-parter, which would bridge one season to the next. But this didn't do that. They just started off season, and must have been really cool. Must have been really cool at the time.
Yeah, and part of the reason I blocked it out, and now I'm looking at it, is in the circle we had a little bit of Vedic Win, and every time I see Vedic Win, I try to forget her. But she's also an instrumental character because of this whole Bajoran conflict that's happening in this opening 3-parter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we move on to episode 4, which was called Invasive Procedures. A jealous Trill who had waited his entire life to receive a symbiont, but never did, decides to steal Dax's. I remember the title of this, and I think, no, this was not the episode in which we see Curzon. I think that was like the first episode or something like that. But I do remember this one a little bit. What do you remember of this?
I remember the character that was interested in getting this Trill was not likable, and
right.
and didn't have the qualities, didn't possess the qualities that you would need to have in order to be a host, right? There was a certain qualifications there, and I think even Dax herself was complaining about some of the difficulties and the emotional difficulties and physical difficulties of having to overcome the testing mechanisms to see who is worthy of being a host, right? And that was what I remember from this episode, mostly about what kind of qualifications and who would be suitable.
Yeah, I remember finding this episode interesting because we learn more about the Trill. And this is kind of the episode, there are a few episodes along the ride where we learn more about the Trill. Later on, there's also the episode in which we find out about all of Dax's previous hosts and all the different ones, and then the one that she was suppressing for so long and all that. But this was the first one where we kind of start to learn about, what is it? I feel like it was like only 2%. It's either 2% or 0.2% of all Trills are actually qualified be hosts or to
Right.
take these tests or something like that. So I remember learning all that stuff, and I love that kind of stuff. Like I don't need an episode to be super exciting. I just needed it to give me more information on a character or on a race or on an anomaly less. I'm less of an anomaly guy, but I want to learn more about the Trill and more about the Bajorn and more about the diplomacy or more about a character or relations and things like that. And this gave us that. So that was kind of my takeaway from that. None of these were terribly highly rated so far yet. Well, the first three did pretty well. They were all over 7.6 or above. So that's really good. The fifth one was called Cardassians. The air date was October 24th, 1993. Political tensions rise on Deep Space Nine when Bajorans board the station with a supposedly orphaned Cardassian whom they have adopted. And I just want to point this out very quickly for those of you listening in. You are missing out on looking at the alien that looks like he's got a butt on his head or something. I don't know what's. I definitely remember this guy because of the way.
I remember that guy. Yeah, that head job right there.
And his outfit is kind of a mix between some Jake Sisko stuff or some Neelix stuff, but definitely 90s. Definitely very 90s outfit there.
Yeah. And then he has the hairdo of like the old wigs and the back in the days. But no, I don't know. I don't remember too much about this episode, Cardassian. And that guy that you showed didn't help jog my memory much.
Well, this was also the episode that that premiered one of Garrick's best outfits ever. It's like this green and dark green striped outfit with brown vest stuff around it. It's a very well-known, like when we think of Garrick, he's got like maybe 3 outfits that really stand out. There's this one, there's the one that's like silver with like the burgundy kind of wrapping around and coming down the middle. Right. And then it's like gray and burgundy, things like that. So that, anything that gives you more Garrick and cooler Garrick, stuff is good by me.
Yeah.
I do
Cardassians.
Yeah. Okay, so here was the orphan. If I remember correctly, I'm pulling this guy up. This guy right here. So he was like, if you'll recall, this was the one where he was supposed to be playing like a 12 or 13 or 14. And we're both like, that dude is 30, man. There's no way that's not a 30-year-old dude. And then I think we looked him up and he was like, in his late 20s or something like that.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, he like bit Garrick's hand or something, and it was like kind of a weird move for a 30-year-old.
Weird move for
but yeah.
Anyway, what's his name? Rugal,
yeah.
Anyway, okay. Enough on that guy. Yeah, I think he was 25, maybe only. Okay, whatever. So the next one, of course, was everybody's favorite. And I got to admit, it's Melora, by the way, episode 6. It's Melora. This was the first one that I feel like my enjoyment for this podcast grew with this episode. Like every episode kind of was fun to do. It was fun to talk with you and Aaron. It was fun to have guests on. It was fun to revisit episodes that I didn't even remember watching many times. And Melora was certainly one of those. But this one, I feel like there was a spike in my enjoyment because I was like, even the episodes that aren't considered very good are still fun as hell and they're interesting. And you can actually find more enjoyment in those because it's endearing. It's charming to not have perfect episodes. And right now, everybody gets so up in arms if you say, this episode wasn't very good, or this character of the new stuff. People get so up in arms, but it's like, dude, it's okay to have episodes that aren't as good, or that aren't as highly rated, or that aren't as exciting. That's, to me, that's charming. Like, I reference Melora and Meridian over and over and over again. And I enjoy the hell out of it. And people talk about Tuvix all the time, and Alamarine, or what was it called? Not Progress. Oh, well, that'll come to me in a second. But that's the thing. I don't think it's bad to have these episodes that are kind of filler episodes that aren't like super exciting. I remember that being kind of like a step up in how much I was enjoying this, because everything's fun with Deep Space Nine.
I kind of know what you're talking about, and those episodes go in a different category for me. I don't look at them like, okay, what kind of moral story was told, or what can I learn from this? Sometimes it's just pure entertainment, and I can look at it as just that, and it doesn't have to be, well, this is not scientific enough, or sometimes it's just for entertainment purposes, and allows you to kind of relax. And I think this is one of those episodes where the fun that we have analyzing it and talking about it, those scenes with the anti-gravity stuff, I mean, that was as much fun to talk about as anything else.
It's fun. It's charming. It's okay to poke fun at your favorite show. It's okay to, because it's harmless and it was fun. And I look back at it with fondness. Like, I don't like Deep Space Nine any less because there were some episodes that were worse than others or better than others. To me, it adds to the charm. We don't hate the original series because Kirk and the Gorn fight was super cheap, with like the Gorn swinging in uber slow motion and Kirk that makes it more fun. I like it. I'm like, that makes it more charming and enjoyable for me. So, if we ever talk a little jive about, old Star Trek or the new ones, you guys, it comes from a place of love most of the time.
Most of the time.
By the way, it was Move Along Home is the Alamarine episode. I know I can hear everybody screaming it right now. They're like, it's Move Along Home. Obviously not Progress. Progress is self-sealing stem bolts. Okay, we get it.
Yeah, Melora.
Anyway.
So you always bring up Melora. This is one of your episodes, huh? You like to bring this one up.
Yeah, and I want to watch it again. I want to watch all of the first and second season over again, because I felt like a lot of these, when I watched them with you, I felt like it was my first time viewing them, because I must have just seen them once 25 years ago, or just skipped kind of through it. Because a lot of these, I felt like I was seeing them for the first time, which is great. It felt like just new Star Trek, more of what I love, more 90s Trek. And Melora, I would gladly watch Melora again. I gladly watch all these again.
Yeah, and actually that was what I felt when we were doing the first season review. As I was thinking, I would like to watch them again, because I feel like I don't know the names off the top of my head, and sometimes I don't remember some of the stories, and it would be nice to refresh. It's crazy though, because the overall essence of the flavor though I get, right? So I don't remember specifics, but I know that I enjoyed it overall when I look back, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was a good season.
Yeah.
But that's why it's fun when we go, episode by episode and kind of look at it.
Right. And the next one, we had Rules of Acquisition. A female Ferengi named Pell, you'll remember this one, a female Ferengi named Pell, posing as a male so that she can engage in business, falls for Quark during very important negotiations between the Ferengi and a Gamma Quadrant race. So this was another one of those Ferengi stories where we realize just how crappy the Ferengi society is, that a woman has to pretend to be a man just to do business. But then she ends up falling in love with Quark, because who wouldn't, of course. But yeah, this was a fun one. And I remember she like took off her big ears, and that's how she revealed that she was actually, because everybody knows female Ferengi have cute little ears, and boys have big ugly ears.
This is more of like a cultural type of episode where you get into the different cultures that they try to represent on the show, and the Ferengi are interesting. And I think this is when they began the journey of kind of going deep into politics and the women's rights movement in Ferengi culture. This was the beginning of that, and it's something that they stick with, because we see it, up until season 6. It's still a very poignant topic as far as the Ferengi politics are concerned, and women's rights, and are they getting it, and how is it advancing? So I think this is a great beginning to set that storyline up for later on, which would come up many times.
Yeah, good stuff. Next one is Necessary Evil. This is the highest rated episode, I think, this season, or tied with the highest rated of the entire season. Nope, there was one other one that was higher, or a couple others. But this is definitely one of the highest, Necessary Evil. This is when Odo relives some terrible and tragic memories of a past investigation when he was the constable on Cardassian-occupied Deep Space Nine, then named Terok Nor. So this was our first time. It's kind of like if the station were a character, this was almost like the station's character's backstory, what it was before when it was Terok Nor. It was our first glimpse of that. And I think this is when Odo has his belt on, or, there's the whole belt situation. And we see that he was actually doing, the bidding of bad people and doing bad things, under the guise of, or under the explanation of, I'm just doing my job. And I remember that was a very good one. I really enjoyed it.
I did too, and that one actually stuck with me because it did go back to DS9, showed us a glimpse into its past, and also gave us a glimpse into Odo's past and kind of who he was before this occupation ended. But I remember him also being haunted with the guilt of having essentially accused the wrong people or of a crime, and having that kind of guilt on him. So I thought that was great for his character. It made him more human to me. It made him more conscious and made him have remorse. And so I enjoyed this episode.
More human than human, as Rob Zombie would remind us. So great song by White Zombie. Here's the key. The next one, this one is going to be, this one's a curveball here. Second Sight. This is season 2, episode 9. Trick question, Cirroc. How much do you remember of this one? Because I don't remember anything, and I'll tell you why. Because we didn't review it.
Oh, well, there it is.
This is the one episode in all of Deep Space Nine until season 7 so far that we did not review. This was the one reviewed by Melissa, Kat, and Heather Jordan, because we gave them a full, an all ladies episode, and they dominated, and people are clamoring. They're like, never bring back the boys, never bring back the boys. But we came back anyway. So that episode actually aired for us, our review aired on December 29th, 2019. And it was Heather Jordan, Kat King, and Malissa Longo. I think, that was Malissa Longo's first review. And her second review was literally the very next week when we did our review of season 2, episode 10, Sanctuary. But we'll have to talk about that on the other side of our break, everybody. We'll be right back on the 7th Rule.